New Galaxy Broadcasting proudly presents Integrative Hermetic Health with Hugo Rodier, MD. In this program, we explore a powerful new paradigm for health from the standpoint of integrative medicine. In his practice, Dr. Rodier integrates the ancient Hermetic art and the enduring role of food as medicine with modern nutrition, but also allowing for the wide range of important health practices, including truly valuable medical discoveries, chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathic, and herbal medicine. In this program, Hugo Rodier, an expert in intestinal health and nutrition, will help the audience discover an approach that focuses on actual cures, not the masking of the elegant simplicity of many health solutions for the sake of profit. Profit too long has been an overriding motive of the pharmaceutical companies, and sometimes, sadly, by many in the medical establishment today. This is Johnny Bluestar. I'm back with Dr. Hugo Rodier on the Integrative Hermetic Health Show. We've been discussing articles from his recent newsletter. Maybe you could repeat some of the information about how to access this article.
Yes, go to my website, hugorodier.com, and click on the newsletter, the March 2020 newsletter. It's a special issue with 3 great articles, one on weight loss, why the diets fail, another one is on exercise and circadian rhythms that affect your metabolism, and the third on dairy. And they're expansive, posted in their totality, so they deserve that exposure because they're so well done, and I hope you study them. If not, we've sort of talked about a few of the main points in those articles that you've brought up, and we're talking now about the circadian article.
I just want to say that if somebody really is into this stuff, these articles really go into a depth that you can't possibly get in a podcast. And so it sort of supports it and gives you a chance to think more deeply about it. I'm going to quote from this latest article that we have about that has to do with time to eat and a time to exercise. However, other environmental and behavioral time cues called Zeitgebers, such as the timing of meals and exercise, along with sleep-wake cycles, can fine-tune the central clock. These non-photic, which means not related to light or darkness, cues can reset or induce time phase shifts in circadian oscillations through mechanisms independent of the SCN. Indeed, our prevailing modern lifestyle, round-the-clock access to energy-dense food, low levels of habitual physical activity, accompanied by periods of prolonged sitting, and inadequate quantity of sleep, interacts with the underlying biology to create an environment in which circadian rhythms are disrupted, often resulting in a plethora of metabolic conditions. Well, this says this was not always the case. So that's a sort of theory that some people have, right?
Right, and in the extreme, the best example of that is working graveyard. Otherwise, we do well to get up as close to sunrise and go to bed as close to sunset. Of course, farmers are really good at it in rural areas. It's more difficult in cities. And try to avoid graveyard shifts if possible. Here's a quote from the second article that's worth bringing up.
Okay.
Energy-restricted diets and isolation are effective short-term strategies for rapid weight loss, but result in a reduction in both fat and muscle mass, predisposing one to an unfavorable body composition and poor health. And that's what we were talking about. I'm all for weight loss. I'm all for the ketogenic diet, whatever works for you, intermittent fasting, but they're not sustainable nor conducive to good health in the long run. Again, do anything to lose weight, but then when you're done, you do best to go back to our often cited plant-based diet.
Well, now I'm going to read another part of this article. Throughout human evolution, lifestyle and energy availability were inextricably linked to the periodic cycles of feast and famine. During these natural cycles, specific genes evolved to regulate efficient storage of endogenous fuel stores, so-called thrifty genes. During the early hunter-gatherers period, there was also the selection of genes and traits to support a, quote, physical activity cycle. And under these constraints, most of the present human genome evolved. Today, these alleles and traits that evolve for energy storage and locomotion are exposed to a host of unfavorable environmental cues over an extended lifespan, perturbing the intrinsic circadian clock and increasing the risk of many lifestyle-induced metabolic diseases.
Yes, that's reiterating what we've been talking about. I must say there's a big flaw in this article.
Okay.
I covered it all. And that's the influence of the microbiome on timing, on our circadian rhythm. Our microbiome pretty much tells you when to get up, when to go eat, and that's not mentioned at all. The microbiome itself talks to the brain about these promptings. And also the microbiome influences the liver on how the liver works. And we have very good evidence that the liver sends messages to the brain determining our circadian rhythms. In fact, I can tell you that if you travel a lot, say you want to go to France tomorrow, well, the week before you go, start eating as if you were in France.
Okay.
And so that begins to send messages from the gut bacteria and the liver to the brain. So when you finally get there, you have already sort of adjusted to that timeline. Of course, it's not practical to do that. The point being is that our gut-brain connection is huge and not mentioned in this article.
Well, it just seems to me, as we've discussed this so many times, the microbiome has to change the ordinary concept of diagnostic medicine, and it also has to change all the research. Now becomes contextual. It becomes dependent on a factor that's not mentioned in these research.
Exactly.
And I would like to know how you think that could be. How can you deal with that, since you have individual patients and you have research based on a whole bunch of individual patients? How do you find a better way of doing this research?
Well, it's all going to have to be repeated. I mean, it's just a major paradigm shift that I don't think the eggheads out there, our society in general, our medical system in particular, has totally come to grips with. Let me just give you a small example. We've talked about how the microbiome affects everything, our immune system, our metabolism, and all that, right? But guess what? Every article, every research on the effect of drugs, which our healthcare system is based upon, will have to be redone. Why? Because say you and I take Viagra, wink, it will affect you differently than me according to our microbiome. So all these drug studies that are hallowed and revered and cast in stone and worshipped must be redone, because no drug will have X effect on the body or Y or Z unless without the microbiome having a say-so. And so our microbiomes, which are so unique, determine pretty much what that reaction to that drug benefit side effects will do. And that is not accounted for in the least.
Well, here's the problem that I have with that. I mean, that they have with that in getting better research. If you're doing a study of, say, the effect of a certain drug on the human body, and you have like 1,700 different people to have a decent study, each of those people is going to have a different composition there. So how do you do that? Do you do 1,700 different studies? Do you just check to make sure everybody has the same microbiome? I mean, there are so many variations.
Exactly.
So what do you do?
Well, look, I'm not a researcher. I can't give you a specific answer. I will tell you, though, that with our computers, our artificial intelligence jumping in, I think we'll be able to cope. How exactly, I don't know. But I do know that complexity is an illusion once we start to deal with some basic concepts, including the microbiome. So I have no doubt that we'll tackle this. It might take decades, generations, but it will have to be addressed for best results, which we all want. Now, if we just want an approximation, an average, which is what we've been doing, okay, we'll continue the same. But I think there's a lot of impetus right now, a lot of energy behind what I'm telling you. As to how we'll shake down in practical ways to do it, I don't know. It's not my field. But let me give you, I just popped in my head. It's sort of off the subject, but not quite.
Okay.
It turns out, Johnny, this is fascinating, that all research will also have to be redone to consider what we've known for a while, and nobody's talking about, that when we deal with animals in the laboratory, say rats or whatever, you know how researchers use animals for research?
Absolutely.
Okay, which is sort of being questioned right now itself. Well, guess what? The caring of the animals I'm not talking about the injection of the drug, the exposure to the drug, but the care, how you maintain the cages, how you feed them, how you turn on the lights, turn off the lights, the temperature in the room where the animals live, and who cares for the animals has an amazing impact on the results. And we have seen that when researchers are females, women, they care more for those animals, they pet them more, they talk to them more, they care for them more as far as changing the litter, the poop, the food, everything, and that they get different results when the researchers and the caretakers of those animals are female.
Wow, that's really interesting. And you know what? That brings to mind a movie that I just saw. Have you seen The Call of the Wild?
With Harrison Ford?
Yeah.
You know, that computerized dog gave me the creeps.
Well, I didn't realize it was computerized, sad to say, but it was just an amazing story about, actually it has to do with the treatment of animals and the benign relationship between a really caring person and someone who isn't, and a respect for the animals. Yeah,
I remember. I cannot stand animals in cages anymore. I can't go to the zoo. I can't have rabbits in cages. It didn't bother me when I was young, but now it's tremendously upsetting. I remember, that I used to live in Alaska, Northern Exposure, that TV show where this guy goes to serve the government up there. Well, I did that. While I was up there, Susan Butcher was winning the Iditarod, the most grueling race across Alaska with dog sleighs.
No, I didn't know about it, but that's interesting.
Yeah, Susan Butcher was beating everyone. And when she first started running, people thought that she's nuts. This is for men only. But she began to win and win consistently, often, and by far. Why? Because she took better care of the dogs. She petted them more. She talked to them more. Et cetera, et cetera. Look, I'm not saying women are superior to men. I'm just saying that there's a lot to be said for integrating our natures.
Well, The Call of the Wild is about that, about the guy who's treating the dogs. He becomes part of a dog team, and he's been mistreated terribly. And then this Harrison Ford comes and eventually, by accident almost, he kind of rescues him, has to deal with his psychological defects. And it's an amazing thing. I'm sorry to say that I didn't notice it. I guess if I thought the dog was robotized, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. So I'm glad I missed that. Well,
anyway, thanks for bringing that up.
Well, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. This is Johnny Bluestar, CEO of New Galaxy Enterprises, a media content development company. In addition to serving our freelance writing clients, we have a number of in-house proprietary products that we could use active investors to participate in. Active investors will get appropriate credit for their participation in writing, marketing, or assistance in producing. These projects are screenplays, TV pilots, or books, some susceptible for further in-house development as film and novel franchises or standalone film, novel, or television series. Many are in various stages of completion, but there are some in an idea stage. Money invested in these projects are for content development and marketing the screenplay, novel, or pilot to appropriate industry venues, including literary or talent agencies, production companies, television and movie studios. To learn more about New Galaxy, see samples of our work, or talk to us about your project, please go to www.newgalaxyenterprises.com and fill out the contact form.
It is the 15th century. El Tesoro de Cielo, a Spanish treasure ship, sends a scouting expedition to a strange island. Golden statues surrounding them prove the enormity of their find. Suddenly, hordes of ghoulish creatures with scaly green flesh and skeletal wings descend upon them from the sky.
What do you think of this, Rufio?
These creatures are fragile, Captain. We can take them with our swords.
They seem supernatural. Who knows what powers they possess?
Fallen angels, weakened by their treason.
By God, are you saying they're Nephilim, the devil's host?
I'm saying, whatever they are, we can take them. Do any of you cowards dare join me?
Up against sharp knife-like nails and hideous fangs, the men's swords rip into slimy green flesh. Though black blood pours copiously from their half-naked bodies, the creatures miraculously persist. Can the crew survive this bloody, cursed battle?
Find out more by Googling The Thrice Born, a new sci-fi supernatural novel by Carlos Lopez Avery and Johnny Bluestar. Google with the words Carlos Johnny Kendall, The Thrice Born. That's Carlos Johnny Kendall, The Thrice Born.
Doc Skinner is a versatile singer-songwriter and musician whose music can touch deep chords within us. This is an homage to his mother. The song is called Miss You Mama.
As my teacher, you featured as a tool of the future I just couldn't see. Taught me how to survive and self stay true to be all that I could be. Slanging butts since 12, hanging out with big dogs, what they call the wrong crowd. Serving corners and running benders, played running hogs, life be foul. Gunshots, hot spot, toe tags, talk lines, ghetto, everyday pain. Popo sirens, babies crying, dogs dying, you know the signs ain't never gonna change. Every city we hear, the pity we saw, it, same, it's how we grew. No matter where we go in America, don't nothing ever change, it's all we knew. It's gotten worse for me, mama, since you left, been gone. I'm all alone, how you groomed me into me, I wonder where I went wrong, same old sad song. Been knocked down, locked down, incarcerated, pulled a 6-month bid. Going crazy, I'm insane, G, something's gonna have to give. This is dedicated to you, for what it's worth. The woman that raised me to be true to self from birth. I miss you, mama. I wouldn't want another mother, why am I separated from you? This is dedicated to you, I miss you, mama. This is dedicated to you, for what it's worth. The woman that raised me to be true to self from birth. I miss you, mama. I wouldn't want another mother, why am I separated from you? This is dedicated to you, I miss you, mama. Yo, they say I'm a sellout, well I'ma sell this bit till I sell out. By my dad a headstone, me a house and car with the tint window smoked out. Mom's was cremated, cause she wanted to be, now she's free. There will never be truer than see Lady Domino to live and breathe. I remember back in the days, ways, when we all had a big mama. You lost your mama? Yeah, well, I lost my mama. To the drama we call life strife, it's been said it's all good. Well, it ain't all good in my neck of the neighborhood, is that understood? Yo, check, I'ma get to wrecking the CD decking it, so inspect it to the T. DOC's up in here, and I ain't gonna stop till I drop and leave. Cause my mama raised this GDOC to be the best me you see. So this is dedicated to you, mama, from DO to the C. This is dedicated to you, for what it's worth. The woman that raised me to be true to self from birth. I miss you, mama. I wouldn't want another mother, why am I separated from you? This is dedicated to you, I miss you, mama. This is dedicated to you, for what it's worth. The woman that raised me to be true to self from birth. I miss you, mama. I wouldn't want another mother, why am I separated from you? This is dedicated to you, I miss you, mama. Dedicated to you, for what it's worth. The woman that raised me to be true to self from birth. I miss you, mama. I wouldn't want another mother, why am I separated from you? This is dedicated to you, I miss you, mama. This is dedicated to you, for what it's worth. The woman that raised me to be true to self from birth. I miss you, mama. I wouldn't want another mother, why am I separated from you? This is dedicated to you, I miss you, mama. Dedicated to you, for what it's worth. The woman that raised me to be true to self from birth. I miss you, mama. I wouldn't want another mother, why am I separated from you? This is dedicated to you, I miss you, mama. This is dedicated to you, for what it's worth. The woman that raised me to be true to self from birth. I miss you, mama. I wouldn't want another mother, why am I separated from you? This is dedicated to you, I miss you, mama.
Okay, good to be back with you all, and I'm Johnny Bluestar with Dr. Hugo Rodier, and we've been discussing various things connected with improving one's ability to lose weight and to deal with, to some extent, the circadian influence if it's there. And now we're going to discuss exercise. So, Doctor, is it all right if I read a little bit to you from this article?
Sure, go ahead.
The benefit improving dietary quality combined with the undertaking regular exercise is undoubtedly the best approach to treat non-communicable diseases. However, adherence to lifestyle modifications is poor, and such behavioral changes have met with limited success at the population level. Consequently, diet and exercise strategies that focus on more socially acceptable and achievable interventions, for instance, exercise breaks after meals, changing the timing of eating, high-intensity sprint interval training, may be more effective for improving metabolic health. So, what do you think of that?
Well, yeah, there's good science to validate all that. I still maintain that the best exercise program is what works for you.
Yeah.
You know, in a practical sense. So it could be walking your dog. I mean, just go for it. Do it consistently, regularly, stick with it, enjoy it. That's, to me, is the main thing. So I'm sure that some exercises are better than others. We know that racket sports and swimming are the best. But who likes that? I mean, and then swimming it's a concern if you're swimming in a chlorinated pool. I wish they had a saline pool close to where I live because I used to be a swimmer.
Oh.
So, yeah, just whatever you do it well. Whatever the art, do it. Act well that part.
Well, I'm going to get into the next part here. In the past decades, evidence has accumulated to suggest that timing of meals affects a wide variety of physiological functions, including the sleep-wake cycle, core body temperature, athletic performance, and mental alertness. Furthermore, the time of meals has a profound effect on skeletal muscle, insulin sensitivity, and whole body metabolic health, and can be manipulated to treat a number of lifestyle-related disease states. This has been termed chrononutrition and reflects a new appreciation that the timing of meals, in addition to the energy content and macronutrient composition of food, is critical for the well-being of an organism. Hence, chrononutrition refers to the synchronization of eating with the body's entrained circadian rhythms. So, what do you think of chrononutrition? Is this serious?
Well, I love it. I think we've known about it for millennia. That's why old-timers, the ancients, taught us eat breakfast like a king, lunch as a queen, and dinner as a pauper. And I highly recommend that.
Well, what about the combining of exercise with it?
Well, I feel exercise is best fit in whenever you can do it. I'm more partial to exercising in the morning for many reasons, including this circadian rhythm that we're talking about. But if it's impossible for you to do it, at least get it in somewhere. I must say, Johnny, that I hear a lot of people setting the alarm to get up and go work out at 4 a.m. So that they can start getting ready to go to work later. I don't recommend that at all. I think you'd run into diminishing returns by losing sleep. And we know that sleep loss promotes obesity, messes with your circadian rhythm, triggers insulin resistance. So a whole lot of the gain of the exercise in question is offset by setting the alarm and losing sleep.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important, getting enough sleep. I've tried so hard to destroy my life by avoiding that idea.
Yeah, I tell you, the minute you have to have an alarm to wake you up, I question that. And I know a lot of people have to do it because of economics and circumstances in life, and I feel bad. But if you can avoid an alarm and wake up when you're ready to wake up, go to bed when you're ready to go to bed, I wish you that. Because an alarm clock is just telling me you're not getting enough sleep. That's what it's telling me. Well,
now we're going to go to another little interesting discussion, one of which I'm very interested in right now. And that is, I'll read a little bit here. Numerous diet strategies have been proposed to curb the soaring prevalence of obesity and lifestyle-induced metabolic disorders. A feature common to most of these diets is the manipulation of the feeding fast cycle. In this regard, time-restricted eating, TRE, in which energy intake is limited to a window of less than 10 hours, has emerged as a practical intervention to increase the length of time spent fasting by reducing the time over which energy is consumed. I think this is really interesting. I have actually fasted on liquids for more than 40 days.
Yes, I highly recommend it. Many benefits. We talked about it last week to intermittent fasting, any kind of fasting. Yes, absolutely. Entire cultures, civilizations have discovered this, and a lot of them turn them into religious ritual, which is fine. My point is it's not sustainable. It's great to lose weight, but once you lose the weight, it's best to eat a plant-based diet in a social environment that is conducive to warmth and fellowship and breaking bread and enjoying life. I tell you, if you go through life starving, look, Johnny, let me put it this way. If you told me you're going to live 2-3 more years, maybe 5, with intermittent fasting, and that means starving a whole lot of the time, I wouldn't take it.
Well, the honest truth is that if you eat a certain way, you're not hungry.
Well, look, for a time. But then how are you going to relate to people, to most people? And that has diminishing returns. So remember, we talked about Roseto, Pennsylvania, how critical it was for the health of those Italian immigrants to eat the way they did in the motherland, and how healthy they were compared to other peoples in surrounding counties in Pennsylvania. It's a huge study that we must keep in mind.
I think it's important.
Yeah, very.
But I also think that I was actually brought up something else. I brought up prolonged fasting for 40 days. Obviously, if you keep doing that, you'll die.
Exactly.
But what I found, though, now this was when I would drink juices, and I was okay with them. I wouldn't be okay with it the way I was doing it now. But at any rate, I lost very little weight, and after a while, you're not hungry. It's not so simple. I mean, you might have 1 or 2 days where you're hungry, but then it kind of passes. But I would say that there was a diminishment of energy at a certain point, and sometimes an acceleration of energy. But it was like an up and down thing.
Right.
But I think in general, it wasn't bad for me. I don't know if it really did that much. But
it's just your experience, And
yeah, exactly.
We're talking about, we're all different as to how we metabolize. I mean, our genetics, our microbiome has a lot to do with it. The point being is that, yes, go for it. For the ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, do it. Get the benefits that might be there for you. But then when the dust settles and you are at a place where you're happy with your weight, you must go back to the tried and proven basic concepts that we talk about. Plant-based diet, in company of loved ones, in a social environment that brings you joy and warmth, good relationships. Foods are not just physiologic, they're also psychologic. Look, I grew up French, and my dad put a lot of stock in the ritual of eating, all right, as the French do. And many other cultures do too, Italians and et cetera, et cetera. The joy of breaking bread with people has to be maintained. If that is disrupted in a chronic way, there are consequences to that. If you're willing to go through that, fine. That's your choice, the listener's choice. All I'm saying is that we've got to factor that in, that these weight loss diets are, for the most part, unsustainable.
Understood. Well, so we see that there's some advantages to some extent, right, in restricting your diet and maybe even looking at the timing of your eating, like you're not eating a whole lot before you go to bed.
Exactly.
Or getting up in the middle of the night and snacking.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one thing that I don't like about Ramadan. I have a lot of respect for Islam. But, to go without food when the sun is up and gorge yourself when the sun goes down doesn't sound healthy to me.
Well, there's also adaptation, isn't there?
That's true. That's a great point. We've talked about how entire civilizations and countries made a certain way that might seem not good. But over millennia, we adapt. You're absolutely right.
We're talking about 6th century. Well, I'm not everybody, but from 6th century to now is a lot of generations. And I'm sure that a lot of people who are Muslims have generations of Muslims behind them. I don't know if that's true or not, what you said. I have no idea.
But it's a great point.
But they don't drink water. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Now,
I should say that it's not that I'm against drinking water, but if you eat a plant-based diet, guess what? Plants are 70% water.
Right.
And so if you're eating a plant-based diet, you're going to notice you're not as thirsty, and you're not going to be drinking as much fluids as you might think. We see this so much in people who eat processed foods. It's all dried up astronaut food in boxes and bags. Yeah, you got to drink a lot of water because you're not getting any from those dry foods, stored, marketed, canned foods.
Well, we're going to take a break now, and we'll come back with a little bit more of this discussion, and we'll go on to some other really interesting topics. My company, New Galaxy Enterprises, is a California corporation specializing in the creation of media and promotional content. We are focused on original, innovative projects that are good for humanity. These projects could be nonfiction books or novels, fictional screenplays or documentary content, websites and website content, commercial advertising content for print, audio, or video products on the internet, television, or radio, musical scores for advertising, television, or film, video, audio editing, etc. We want to promote products and projects that support the environment, encourage a healthy experience in living, developing, nurturing, and useful technology, and offering platforms for positive, socially constructive entertainment or informative, transformative media. Our experience in creating a variety of products like this is rather vast, and we offer client-based and collaborative products, as well as the opportunity of active investors to join us in the creation and promotion of proprietary products, some of which are in latter stages of development. For more information, go to www.newgalaxyenterprises.com. That's www.newgalaxyenterprises.com. If you're interested in talking to us, just fill out the contact sheet and we will get back with you. Dr. Hugo Rodier has published 4 books on health issues covering practically all chronic health problems. You may find them by accessing his website at hugorodier.com. That's HUGORODIER.com. Gut health is the most academic, while switching off chronic disease is the most patient-oriented, with simple recipes to implement his nutritional protocols. This song is about an escape to Palm Springs, which does, from time to time, have a certain idyllic beauty and grandeur, and perhaps, at those times, you can hear the Palm Springs Lullaby, which is the name of our next song. I wrote the lyrics, Edgar Ahrens wrote the music and produced the song. Patricia Welch performs the song with understanding and passion, putting herself totally into its story, as she characteristically does with everything she sings. Great singers are often great actresses.
Escaping from the dawn, we flee to desert skies. The final dance is on, with no more alibis. As windmills madly spin, our dreams from lovesick sighs. That dancing shadows win a gleam from downcast eyes. are landing a field inside the San Jacinto climb unfolds a magic view, a playground for our hearts, so cruelly once subdued. The fiercely burning stars now shine in jewel-tipped glass. We sip our wine and slowly dine, fearing night will pass. Dry winds quickly change palm fronds to magic wands. We sink into a golden swamp and sigh beneath the sea of stars. Life's now so lovely and so strange in our desert Shangri-La. In our desert Shangri-La.
We're back on the Integrative Hermetic Health Show with Dr. Hugo Rodier, and we're going to be looking at an article that's in his newsletter, his monthly newsletter, called Rethinking Milk, Science Takes on the Dairy Dilemma. And this was reported in Medscape by Brenda Goodman, was the person who created this article. Cow's milk is creamy, filling, and delicious ice cold, and decades of advertising have sold it to Americans as a food that does a body good. Now, the question that we've asked before, and we're asking again, is does it really do a body real good?
All right. In short, no. A rotund, no. And I'm sorry, but look, I've been addicted to ice cream like the rest of us. I freely admit it. I mean, what is not to like about ice cream? Oh, my God. I mean, it conjures all these childhood memories and good times, and chocolate ice cream and caramel ice cream and coffee ice cream. Oh, my God. I'm salivating right now.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so I understand. It's not that I'm not part of this culture, no pun intended. But the problem is that it's addicting because of all the sugar it has. Lactose is a sugar. Incidentally, a lot of people are not good at digesting that sugar, by the way. So never mind that after eating ice cream, I have to leave the room because I'm going to do socially unacceptable things. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So, but it's a side effect that I happily put up with until a few years ago when I finally overcame my ice cream addiction. But let's just unwrap this a little bit, and we've done it before, but it bears repeating because this is the third article, as you mentioned, in that special issue of my newsletter, the March issue. And the reason I put the article in, the whole article in there, is because it's overdue to inform people about this. We've done it before, but nobody believes it. But when Walter Willett from Harvard speaks, people listen. Walter Willett has written many books about this. He's one of the most respected doctors in my book in the United States. He is works for the public health department at Harvard. You should look him up. I mean, this guy's amazing. And he's got the guts to say it like it is. The research on milk doing a body good is flawed, poor, very poorly done, very few subjects. And so, look, it is shoved down our throats because milk is a complete food and it has a lot of calcium and protein. Well, those things are true. The problem is the side effects and the poor absorption. Number one, milk can be very irritating to the gut, thereby curtailing the absorption of these nutrients, as complete as it might be, as full of calcium as it might be. Cow's milk was intended for cows, not humans, period. To say nothing about all the stuff they throw in milk for and the industrial production of milk, which I must say are pesticides, herbicides, hormones, antibiotics, even growth hormone. To say nothing of a foreign insulin that goes with the milk that our body can react to, make insulin antibodies that will attack our own insulin. The antibodies get confused. thereby triggering more obesity and diabetes, even cancer, because milk acts like a growth hormone. And so that validates a whole lot of the positive aspects of milk. The thing about milk strengthening bones has to go. All you have to do is look at the Journal Pediatrics March 2005 issue that reviewed over 50 articles on calcium in milk. It turns out that they're all flawed. They did not show a strengthening of bones at all. You see, when milk gets away saying milk strengthens bones is by citing good articles saying that milk has calcium. Yes, it does. But my point is, it doesn't get absorbed. I will never forget when this article came out, 2005, March of 2005, Journal Pediatrics. The media was so stunned. Here in Salt Lake City, a TV station took to the streets and put a mic in front of moms' faces up and down the street, telling these moms, young moms, about this article saying that milk does not strengthen bones. Every one of those moms said, I don't believe it. I will keep giving my child milk.
Wow.
Yeah.
Perfect programming, huh?
And another big point. The United States is the country that drinks the most milk. We have the highest rate of osteoporosis of all countries. And those countries that don't drink milk have stronger bones. I mean, do the math, for heaven's sakes. So do look at this article. Don't take my word for it. I'd rather you heard from the master, the expert, Dr. Willett. So I hope people take a look at that article.
Well, there's another aspect which is kind of strange, and it may be more speculative, but there is some evidence that milk does help people grow taller, I guess, and have longer bones.
It's true. Because
so let me just read this. Studies have shown that in countries where people eat the most dairy, they also have the higher rates of fractures.
Exactly, because you're stretching the bones. Yeah, so, okay, you can play in the NBA, you can brag that you're taller. It's really interesting. I immigrated to the United States in high school at age 16. Then I claimed my mom, who brought my half-brother with her, who grew up essentially in the United States, drinking a lot of milk. Well, this guy is twice my size, about half a foot taller, but such poor health. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. It's just my own case, but it can be repeated and seen in many other families.
Well, I had all kinds of problems with milk because I didn't know it. I mean, at that time, I had lots of ice cream, lots of milk, lots of sugar and everything else. And I had bronchitis all the time. I think I had actually asthma. Because later on I got asthma, and the way I cured it was by giving up those things.
Exactly.
Milk. It's mucus forming.
Exactly.
And your bronchial tubes are, it was just so amazing. I just remember when I got off this diet, when I went on to this mucusless diet, in 3 days, all this incurable asthma disappears and I could breathe, and I couldn't even believe it because I did not believe in nutrition. So,
well, Johnny, do you know why milk produces mucus?
No.
Because your immune system is reacting to a bad substance.
Oh, okay.
That's what mucus is a body reaction to something that is harming you. And this goes for all those mommies taking kids to the pediatrician on a regular basis to get antibiotics for ear infections. These kids are producing more mucus in the middle ear, which then plugs up the eustachian tube, and then mucus builds up and builds up. Pretty soon you got an infection in the ear. And then you take antibiotics, which further destroy your immune system in the gut. And so that's why antibiotics have been associated with all kinds of problems in the future. And nobody thinks of it because the smoking gun is so far back in the history and everybody took antibiotics, so why worry about it? And so, yes, sinus infections, ear infections, constant sore throats, a whole lot of those upper respiratory infections also go away when we stop drinking milk, eating cheese and ice cream.
Well, there's another problem with dairy, and I'm going to read a little bit to you, and I think this is important. Even if you've loved dairy for a long time, there are reasons to reconsider, not the least of which is climate change. Willett notes that considering different sources of protein, the costs of dairy to the environment are probably 5 to 10 times greater than plant-based protein sources. Dairy farms consume more water. They can contribute to water pollution. Large-scale dairies can depend on antibiotics to keep their animals healthy, which contributes to antibiotic resistance in people. It says limited dairy production would be a major contribution to reaching greenhouse gas targets. Some dairy alternatives have their own environmental issues. And he talks about almonds being water intensive. But the point is that this is not necessarily good for the environment, eh?
Exactly. And the good news is that milk consumption has fallen by 40% in the last 30 years. So the message is getting across. And I feel bad for dairy farmers, but I also feel bad for a whole lot of other professions that are going the way of the dinosaur because our technology, our knowledge is changing. We just have to adapt.
Well, you have a similar problem, I think, with meat, animals that are raised for meat.
Right.
Because they also consume, I mean, it's so much, we pointed out, one person who eats meat, how many people could, that cost of that meat, how many people could eat in a plant-based diet? And that one person who eats meat?
If you switched from
eating meat to a plant-based diet, the cost
35 people.
Yeah, it's a gigantic number of people.
Right.
And so it's a gigantic saving in a way.
Speaking of numbers, here's another number. The concept that you need milk to meet your daily calcium requirements, those studies were flawed. They didn't include more than 155 people, and they only followed these people for 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, really? And yet we repeat the dogma of calcium in milk over and over and over.
It's kind of a shame.
Well, it's the industry. You know, that's what money does, advertising.
But one thing the article has pointed out is that really milk has been really reduced. People buying actual milk like to drink. But but the actual use of milk in cheese and yogurt and other products has actually increased. So so it doesn't end the problem because cheese, unless I guess it's pretty much fermented, is not really good for you either, right?
Right.
And possibly better for you if you have it fermented.
Yeah. We're running out of time. 2 more quick points. 1, you can get as much calcium from beans and soy and vegetables as you would from milk. Yet we don't hear that. Number 2, I'll never forget this guy. I'm not going to mention his name, of course, but the descendant of a big local brand of dairy. This guy was cured of a whole lot of immunologic problems by stopping milk, and I'll never forget him putting his hands together, praying to the heavens, asking his forefathers for forgiveness for saying that milk does not do a body good.
Wow. Well, thank you for this interesting discussion. We've got many more things to discuss, and I'll see you next week.
All right, Johnny, you have a good week.
Take care. The Coalition is a unique project designed to empower its members both individually and collectively. Besides individual empowerment, its broader focus is on the restoration, protection, and enhancement of citizen and human rights throughout the world through the aid of its members. As this project is centered in the United States, our first task is to create a website and social network infrastructure to promote collective efforts to take back our rightful control as citizens over our government as designed by our founding fathers. Although we must begin with the social network restricted to United States citizens, the organization will also host a global dialogue for the discussion of human rights by citizens of democratic nations throughout the world. If you're interested, please check us out in the GoFundMe.com website, entering in the search field the Coalition for Planetary Empowerment. That is, go to GoFundMe.com and enter in the search field the Coalition for Planetary Empowerment. For more information about Dr. Rodier's practice, books, blogs, and newsletters, contact Hugo Rodier, MD, at www.hugorodier.com. That's HUGORODIER.com. We completely endorse the message of this next song. It's about time to wake up to the possibility. Here it is. The world is yours to change.
believe.